The peaceful human colony on Vesta 7 had been a symbol of humanity's growing presence in the galaxy. It was a thriving community, nestled on a lush planet with tall green trees, flowing rivers, and towering cities that shone like stars in the night. The settlers had built a life here, far from the wars and struggles of Earth. But that peaceful existence was shattered in an instant. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. The sky above Vesta 7 darkened as ships appeared out of nowhere, black and menacing against the pale blue sky. The first sign of trouble came when the ground shook with a loud roar, followed by a blinding light. The human defense system, built to protect against minor threats, was no match for the sudden attack. The alien ships, sleek, fast, and deadly, rained down laser blasts on the colony. Buildings crumbled, the air was filled with smoke, and screams echoed through the streets. People tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The aliens, with their ruthless weapons and overwhelming numbers, were unstoppable. In just hours, Vesta 7 was nothing more than a smoldering ruin. The colony that once thrived was now a graveyard. Among the survivors was a young colonist named Sarah. She had been at the Central Command Center when the attack began. Her heart pounded in her chest as she watched the destruction unfold. She saw the familiar faces of her friends and neighbors fall, their lives taken in an instant. Sarah, along with a few other survivors, managed to escape into the nearby caves, but they knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens would find them too. As they huddled in the dark caves, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about the people they had lost. The pain of seeing everything they had worked for reduced to ashes gnawed at her. She had been part of the colony's defense team, trained to protect her home. But today, they had failed. The aliens were too powerful, and their cruelty too much to withstand. In a distant corner of the galaxy, the news reached Earth. The destruction of Vesta 7 spread like wildfire across the news networks. Families, friends, and allies of the colony demanded answers. Earth's leaders, who had always prided themselves on peace, were faced with an impossible question. What could they do now? Humanity had been attacked. The first instinct of Earth's military leaders was clear. They would not let this atrocity go unpunished. The alien forces had not only destroyed a colony, but had also shown that they were willing to bring terror to the heart of human civilization. Earth could not, and would not, allow this to happen again. In the wake of this tragedy, Earth's response was swift, and it would be a response that the galaxy would never forget. The devastation of Vesta 7 shook humanity to its core. As the images of burning cities and broken families spread across Earth, a sense of grief turned quickly into anger. People demanded action. The military leaders, the politicians, and the citizens, everyone felt the weight of the loss. Earth's most powerful leaders gathered in the council chamber, ready to decide what to do next. The meeting room was large and cold, filled with the harsh light of the artificial sun above. The walls were lined with screens, showing footage from the attack. On one side of the room, military generals stood, their faces hard and grim. On the other side, civilian leaders, their voices trembling with emotion, watched in silence. But there was no need for words. Everyone knew what had to be done. Admiral Stevens, the commander of Earth's fleet, was the first to speak. His voice echoed through the room. "We've been attacked. We cannot let this go unanswered. The aliens who destroyed Vesta 7 must pay. We will make them regret the day they decided to cross us." The council members nodded, some with clenched fists, others with tears in their eyes. They understood the stakes. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about sending a message to the rest of the galaxy. Humanity would not be pushed around. For hours, they discussed strategies, debated their options, and weighed the risks. The alien forces that had attacked Vesta 7 were powerful, far more advanced than humanity had imagined. Earth's fleet was strong, but it wasn't enough. They needed more, much more. Finally, after hours of heated discussion, the decision was made. Earth would send 700,000 warships into the heart of alien territory. It would be the largest military fleet the galaxy had ever seen, a force so overwhelming that no one would dare challenge it. The decision was final. The room went silent. Some members of the council felt uneasy, but they knew it was the only way. The general population of Earth was ready for war. The memories of Vesta 7's destruction would fuel their resolve. There was no turning back. As the council adjourned, Admiral Stevens stood and looked out the massive windows of the chamber. The stars twinkled in the distance, but now they seemed colder, more distant. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The warships would take months to assemble. Thousands of men and women would have to leave their homes, their families, and travel across the galaxy to fight in a war that would change everything. The first step was already in motion. The military began recruiting the best pilots, engineers, and soldiers from all corners of Earth. The warships would need to be equipped with the latest technology, and that meant working day and night. There was no time to waste. Every person who had lost someone on Vesta 7 knew that they had to act quickly before the aliens could do more damage. As the preparations began, the people of Earth stood united in their anger and determination. They would not let their colony fall into silence. Vengeance was coming, and the alien invaders would soon feel the power of humanity's wrath. The order was clear, and Earth's military immediately began preparations. The sight of thousands of ships being constructed across multiple space stations was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. The warships were enormous, each one a floating fortress, built for a battle that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Every major city on Earth was buzzing with activity as men and women from every background came together for one purpose: to prepare the fleet. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and pilots worked long hours, day and night. There was no room for mistakes. The warships needed to be perfect. Every ship would carry weapons capable of tearing through enemy defenses, shields strong enough to withstand the toughest attacks, and the latest technology to give humanity an edge in the battle to come. In orbit around Earth, massive space yards were filled with the sound of hammers and welding machines. Entire fleets of warships slowly took shape, with workers moving quickly to install powerful weapons, engines, and armor. The ships would be the first line of defense for humanity, and they had to be ready for whatever the aliens threw at them. Among the workers was Lieutenant Colonel Mia Harrison, a seasoned officer with years of combat experience. She was assigned to oversee the final checks on the warships. She had been through many battles in her career, but this was different. This was not just about winning a fight. It was about avenging the lives lost on Vesta 7, about making sure no other colony would ever suffer the same fate. Maya stood on the platform overlooking a massive ship that was almost ready for launch. The metallic surface of the warship reflected the light of the distant sun, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride mixed with sorrow. This ship would carry soldiers to battle, but it would also carry the weight of those who had died. Every person working on the ships knew what was at stake. They were all fighting for something bigger than themselves. Meanwhile, in the training centers, young pilots and soldiers were being prepared for the battle of their lives. Among them was Captain Alex Daniels, a rising star in the military. He had been training for years, but nothing could truly prepare him for the war that was about to come. He spent countless hours inside simulators, practicing complex maneuvers, and coordinating with other pilots. He had no choice but to be perfect. He knew that every mistake could cost a life, not just his own, but the lives of everyone aboard his ship. As the days turned into weeks, the 700,000 warships were finally ready. The fleet stretched across the stars like a massive cloud, prepared to leave Earth and head toward the alien-controlled territories. The soldiers and officers who would command the ships were ready, their spirits burning with the desire for vengeance. The warships were not just tools of destruction. They were symbols of humanity's strength and resolve. The final preparations were made. The fleets began to form in the void of space, each ship connecting to its place in the formation. The air was thick with tension, and there was a sense of anticipation that hung in the air like a storm ready to break. Humanity's vengeance was about to begin. With the final orders given, the fleet slowly began its journey toward the alien homeworld. The stars seemed to shine brighter as Earth's massive warships left their home planet behind. A new chapter in human history was about to unfold. The sight of Earth's fleet was beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. 700,000 warships, each one massive and intimidating, now formed a vast armada stretching across the stars. The fleet was a symbol of humanity's wrath, a reminder to all that Earth would never forget the destruction of Vesta 7. The warships, sleek and powerful, drifted through space like a dark cloud, each ship a testament to human engineering and determination. Captain Alex Daniels stood on the bridge of his ship, the vengeful star, staring out at the hundreds of ships surrounding him. He had seen the size of the fleet in the planning stages, but nothing could have prepared him for how imposing it was in person. The warships stretched as far as the eye could see, filling the vastness of space with their dark shadows. It was a sea of human power. He could feel the weight of the moment. Humanity's hopes rested on their shoulders. The soldiers, pilots, and commanders of the fleet were all ready for battle, but none of them could ignore the fact that they were heading into enemy territory. The alien forces that had destroyed Vesta 7 were ruthless, and they would not go down easily. Mia Harrison, overseeing the fleet's readiness, paced back and forth in the command center. She had been in many battles, but this one was different. This was not just a war for survival. It was personal. The faces of the fallen, the people of Vesta 7, haunted her. She could almost hear their voices, urging her to make sure the aliens paid for what they had done. The fleet was now in motion, leaving Earth behind and heading toward the heart of alien space. As the ships moved through the cold emptiness of space, the commanders began their final briefings. The plan was simple but risky: break through the alien defenses and strike at their homeworld with all the power humanity had. The warships had been equipped with the latest technology, each one carrying advanced weapons that would tear through the alien shields. But even with all that power, the alien forces were still formidable, and no one knew what awaited them. In the quiet moments before the battle, there was an unspoken understanding among the crew members. The warships might be ready, but so were the men and women who commanded them. They had all lost something, whether it was family, friends, or entire worlds. The pain of losing Vesta 7 fueled their desire for vengeance, and the hope of victory drove them forward. As the fleet traveled deeper into enemy space, they encountered no resistance. The alien forces seemed to be waiting, biding their time. But every ship in the fleet knew that the calm before the storm wouldn't last. The alien ships would be out there, hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Alex's heart raced as he looked out at the vastness of the fleet. Soon, they would be in the heart of the enemy's territory, and the final confrontation would begin. The battle for vengeance had begun, and there was no turning back. The journey had been long, but the fleet was almost there. Humanity's 700,000 warships cut through the cold void of space, approaching the heart of alien-controlled territory. The tension in the air was thick, the silence before the storm. Every crew member aboard the ships could feel it. The first true test of humanity's resolve was just ahead. Captain Alex Daniels stood at the front of his ship, the vengeful star, staring out into the endless expanse of space. His hands gripped the railing tightly, his mind racing with thoughts of the battle to come. The fleet had traveled far, but they hadn't encountered any sign of the enemy. It was almost too quiet, and that uneasy calm made Alex feel like they were walking into a trap. Mia Harrison paced nervously in the command center, keeping a close watch on the radar. The alien forces had been silent, but she knew better than to trust that silence. The enemy had a reputation for striking when least expected. The moment they dropped out of hyperspace, she knew all hell would break loose. Then it happened. Without warning, the fleet dropped out of hyperspace, and the dark shadow of the alien forces appeared. Thousands of alien ships, sleek and deadly, emerged from their hiding places. The alien fleet was waiting for them, It was larger than humanity had expected. The sight of so many ships, each one armed and prepared for war, took the crew by surprise. The first shots rang out almost immediately. The alien ships unleashed a barrage of plasma fire, and the battle began. The vengeful star rocked as the first blast struck the shields, sending a shudder through the ship. Alex's voice rang out over the intercom. "All hands, brace for impact. Return fire." The fleet reacted quickly, and humanity's warships fired back, their weapons lighting up the dark void of space. Massive lasers tore through the alien ships, and explosions lit up the sky like distant stars. But the aliens were no pushovers. Their ships moved quickly, dodging the human fire with precision. They retaliated just as fiercely, sending wave after wave of plasma shots toward the human fleet. Alex gritted his teeth, his hands firmly gripping the controls as he led his ship into the fray. The vengeful star fired its main cannons, cutting through the alien ships in a bright flash of light. But for every alien ship they destroyed, two more seemed to appear. The battle was chaotic, the air filled with the sound of alarms, explosions, and the shouts of commanders. Mia's voice came over the comms, calm but firm. "Captain, we've got a breakthrough in Sector 4. Send reinforcements." Alex nodded, quickly relaying orders to the rest of the fleet. Humanity had expected a tough fight, but this was beyond anything they had anticipated. The alien forces were relentless. It was clear that this was only the beginning. The warships had been prepared for battle, but nothing could fully prepare them for the scale of the enemy's power. The first skirmish was brutal. Ships were damaged, and the toll on humanity's fleet was already noticeable. But even as the first skirmish had been just the beginning. Humanity's fleet, despite its size and power, was struggling to maintain control. The alien forces had proven to be a far greater challenge than expected. Their ships were fast, their tactics unpredictable, and their weapons more advanced than anything Earth had prepared for. The battle for vengeance was becoming much more complicated than anyone had hoped. Captain Alex Daniels stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star, watching the battlefield unfold before him. The battle had been raging for hours, and already several of humanity's warships were severely damaged. Sparks flew from the control panels, and the alarms blared constantly. The alien ships were relentless, cutting through the human defenses with terrifying precision. Mia Harrison, overseeing the fleet's coordination, watched the radar with growing concern. The alien forces were slowly pushing back humanity's warships, forcing them into a defensive position. But the strangest thing was happening. Despite the overwhelming strength of the human fleet, the aliens weren't trying to crush them outright. Instead, they were shifting their positions constantly, attacking in small waves, and retreating before humanity could fully respond. It wasn't until a transmission came through from the enemy that the truth became clear. The alien commander's voice was calm, almost mocking. "You humans are predictable. You will never win this war. You will fight until you are exhausted. And when you are weak, we will destroy you." Mia's heart sank as the message was decoded. The aliens weren't just attacking. They were playing a game. They were deliberately wearing humanity down, testing their resolve and strength. They wanted humanity to throw everything they had at them, only to break them in the end. It became clear now. The aliens had been studying human tactics, learning from every battle, every move. They were not only fighting to conquer, they were fighting to break humanity's spirit, to crush their morale. The longer the battle went on, the more the humans would wear themselves thin. Alex gritted his teeth as he heard the aliens' words. It was the cruelest of strategies, and it was working. The human fleet was starting to show signs of fatigue. The constant barrage of alien fire, the endless waves of enemy ships, had taken its toll. Some ships were running low on ammunition, while others had already begun to retreat. The pressure was building, and the question on everyone's mind was simple: how long could they hold out? Hold the line. Alex barked over the intercom, rallying his crew. "We don't back down. We fight for Vesta 7. We fight for everyone we've lost." But even as he spoke, Alex knew the situation was dire. The enemy's strategy was working, and if humanity didn't change tactics soon, they would lose everything. In the moments that followed, Mia contacted the other commanders, suggesting a new plan. It was time for a change in approach. Instead of playing the aliens' game, humanity would have to outsmart them. The battle for Vesta 7 was far from over, and humanity's fight for vengeance had just entered a new, more dangerous phase. The war had turned into more than just a battle for survival. It was a test of willpower, and humanity's will was about to be tested like never before. The war had dragged on longer than anyone expected. The alien forces, clever and relentless, had turned the battle into a war of attrition. Humanity's fleet, once full of hope and confidence, was beginning to show signs of strain. Ships were damaged, supplies were running low, and the constant barrage of enemy fire was wearing down the morale of the crew. Captain Alex Daniels stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star, staring out at the chaos. The alien ships moved with terrifying precision, launching wave after wave of attacks, each one stronger and faster than the last. Humanity was losing ground, and he could feel it in his bones. The fleet was starting to break apart, ship by ship. "We can't keep this up much longer," Alex muttered, his hands gripping the controls as he watched another wave of alien ships approaching. Mia Harrison, who had been coordinating the fleet's movements from the command center, stood nearby, her face grim. "We need something more. We need a way to push them back, to turn the tide of this war. And we need it now." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of reality. Humanity had brought their strongest fleet to this fight, but it wasn't enough. The aliens were simply too powerful. Something had to change, or humanity would lose everything. Then, just as the situation seemed hopeless, a message came through to Mia. It was from the top-secret research facility that had been working on new technology for the war effort. The message was short but clear. "We have it." Mia's eyes widened, and she quickly relayed the message to Alex. "Captain, there's something new. Something that might just give us the edge we need. We've been working on a weapon, a new kind of energy weapon that can cut through even the toughest alien shields. It's ready." Alex didn't hesitate. "Bring it online. We need it now." The new weapon, codenamed Project Titan, was a technological marvel. It was a massive energy cannon capable of firing concentrated bursts of pure energy. The weapon had been designed to pierce through the advanced shields of the alien ships, something that no previous weapon had been able to do. It was humanity's last hope, a weapon that could either turn the tide of the war or lead them straight into defeat. Mia watched as the weapon was brought online and the calculations were made. The weapon would only have a limited number of shots before it needed to recharge, so every blast had to count. "We're ready," Maya said, her voice tight with anticipation. "Fire when ready." Alex nodded and gave the order. The Vengeful Star's massive cannons hummed with power, and in an instant, a blinding beam of energy shot out toward the nearest alien ship. The beam struck with incredible force, tearing through the alien ship's shield like paper and causing a massive explosion. The enemy ship was destroyed in seconds. The crew gasped, stunned by the power of the new weapon. Alex allowed himself a small smile. "That's more like it." The fleet began to rally. The alien ships, caught off guard by the destructive power of Project Titan, hesitated for a moment. That moment was all humanity needed. The warships fired again, one after another, each blast weakening the alien defenses. For the first time in days, the tide of the battle began to shift. Humanity had a weapon capable of striking back, and they weren't about to let it go to waste. The fight for vengeance was far from over, but now humanity had a chance to win. And they would fight until every last alien ship was defeated. This part introduces a game-changing weapon for humanity, shifting the battle in their favor and offering a sense of hope after the long struggle. The use of Project Titan creates a turning point in the war, giving the human fleet the edge they desperately needed. The tides of war had shifted. The alien fleet, which had once seemed unstoppable, now found itself on the defensive. Humanity's new weapon, Project Titan, had pierced through the alien ship's once impenetrable shields. With each devastating blast, the enemy's resolve weakened. Humanity had finally found its strength, and now, the final battle was on the horizon. Captain Alex Daniels stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star, his eyes focused on the vast expanse of space ahead. The alien forces were retreating, slowly but surely. They had lost their advantage, and now the human fleet was pushing them back, deeper into their own territory. Mia Harrison watched the radar, her mind racing. The alien fleet was reorganizing, but it wasn't retreating fully. It seemed like the enemy was preparing for one final desperate stand. The message was clear. They weren't going to go down without a fight. "We've pushed them this far," Maya said, her voice tight with anticipation. "But we need to be ready for everything." "They're not giving up." Alex nodded. "They'll fight to the last ship. We're going to have to finish this now." The massive fleet of 700,000 warships formed up in a tight, powerful formation. Humanity had suffered many losses, and the crews were exhausted, but there was no turning back. The time for vengeance had come. They had already lost so much, and this final battle would decide everything. Vesta 7, the home that had been destroyed, and the countless lives lost. This was for them. As the human fleet advanced deeper into alien space, the enemy ships began to regroup. The alien forces had formed a new line of defense, larger ships, more advanced weapons, and a powerful new shield system that would take every ounce of humanity's strength to break. It was clear that this was going to be the hardest fight yet. The commanders of humanity's fleet gathered in the strategy room, discussing their final plan of attack. The room was tense. Everyone knew what was at stake. The battle had already cost them so much, and there was no certainty that victory was within reach. But they had one advantage: the aliens' underestimation of humanity's will to fight. "We can do this," Alex said, standing at the head of the table, looking at his fellow commanders. "We have the firepower. We have the drive. We'll break through." Mia's voice cut through the room, calm yet firm. "We'll push through their defenses, but we have to be quick. We won't have long before they regroup and strike back harder. Project Titan will give us the edge, but it's not unlimited." Alex nodded. "We fire everything we have. We don't hold back. This is it." With the plan set, the final countdown began. The human fleet moved forward, its warships arrayed in a battle line, each ship prepared for the fight of its life. The enemy awaited them, hidden in the darkness of space, but humanity had no fear. This was their time. They had suffered, they had fought, and now they would strike back with everything they had. The first wave of alien ships appeared, and the battle erupted. The stars lit up with explosions as Project Titan fired once more, ripping through alien shields and ships. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The final battle had begun. The enemy might have underestimated humanity's resolve, but they were about to learn the cost of that mistake. This part sets the stage for the final showdown, ramping up the tension as humanity prepares for the ultimate confrontation. It shows the resolve of the characters, with the weight of Vesta 7's destruction pushing them forward. The stakes are higher than ever, and the battle is now more than just a fight for survival. It's a fight for justice. The battle raged on with incredible intensity. Humanity's fleet, though large and powerful, was still facing an overwhelming force. Alien ships filled the sky like a swarm of deadly insects, each one more dangerous than the last. The human warships fired relentlessly, but the alien ships were fast and unpredictable, evading the blasts with expert precision. Captain Alex Daniels stood at the helm of the Vengeful Star, his knuckles white from gripping the controls. His eyes were locked on the vast enemy fleet, knowing that the fate of the war depended on this moment. The alien forces had pushed back hard, and every move made by the humans seemed to be countered by the alien fleet's superior tactics. "We're losing momentum." Alex's voice echoed through the bridge. "We need more firepower. We need to finish this." Mia Harrison, who had been coordinating the movements of the fleet, looked up from the tactical screen. "We've already used Project Titan as much as we can, Captain. Our weapons are still effective, but we need to find a way to break their formation." It was then that Alex saw it. Amidst the chaos, he noticed a slight gap in the alien formation. The enemy fleet was well organized, but they had made a mistake. The gap was small, almost hidden among the larger ships, but it was enough. If humanity could push through that gap, they could break the enemy's line. "Take us through that gap," Alex shouted. Now, the crew moved quickly, the vengeful star veering sharply toward the opening in the alien defenses. The warship rocketed forward, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. Explosions lit up the space around them, but the ship held steady as they moved deeper into the heart of the alien fleet. Mia's voice rang out over the intercom. "All ships, follow the vengeful star. Push through the gap. This is our chance." Humanity's fleet reacted quickly, breaking formation and following the vengeful star through the opening. The alien ships attempted to close the gap, but it was too late. The human fleet was already inside the enemy lines, launching a full-scale assault on the alien ships. The sudden strike caught the aliens off guard. For the first time in days, the human fleet was on the offensive, overwhelming the alien ships that had been trying to box them in. The vengeful star fired again with Project Titan, obliterating the larger alien ships that were blocking their way. The energy beam cut through shields like paper, and alien ships began to fall one by one. Alex watched as the tide of battle shifted. The enemy, once so confident, was now retreating, their ships desperately trying to regroup. The human fleet pushed forward with relentless fury. The feeling of victory began to spread through the crews of the warships. "We've got them," Alex shouted. "Keep the pressure on. Don't stop until they're finished." But even as the human fleet pressed forward, the alien commander sent one final message. "You think you've won. This is not the end." Alex's jaw tightened. He knew that the battle was far from over, but humanity had taken the first step toward victory. The alien fleet was crumbling, and soon it would be no more. Humanity's vengeance was nearly complete. The war for Vesta 7 was about to be won, and the galaxy would never forget the power and determination of humanity. This part focuses on the turning point in the battle, where humanity finally gains the upper hand. It shows how the tide of the war shifts with a well-timed maneuver and the relentless drive of the human fleet. The victory is within reach, but the enemy still holds a lingering threat, keeping the tension high. The battle had turned into chaos, but now, the end was in sight. The human fleet had broken through the alien defenses, and the enemy was retreating, their once proud ships falling one by one. The power of humanity's vengeance had driven the alien forces into disarray, and the once feared fleet was now being destroyed in their own territory. Captain Alex Daniels stood on the bridge of the Vengeful Star, watching the alien ships explode in flashes of light. The enemy had underestimated humanity's resolve, and now they were paying the price. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, not from fear, but from the weight of everything they had lost, and everything they were about to win. Mia Harrison stood beside him, her face tired but filled with determination. "We've done it, Captain," she said, her voice steady. "The alien fleet is breaking. We're about to finish this." Alex nodded, his gaze fixed on the burning wreckage of the enemy ships. The feeling of victory was close, but it was bittersweet. He could still see the faces of the people lost on Vesta 7, hear the screams of those who had perished. Revenge had come, but the cost was high. Every victory, every explosion, was a reminder of the lives lost, people who would never return. "Let's make sure they never do this again," Alex said, his voice low. "We finish this now." The remaining alien ships attempted to regroup, But the human fleet was relentless. Project Titan fired again, cutting through the alien ships as though they were nothing more than paper. The human warships were everywhere, closing in on the last pockets of alien resistance. In mere hours, the alien fleet had been reduced to nothing but debris, their once dominant forces now scattered across the battlefield. Alex felt a sense of closure as the final alien ship exploded in a burst of flame and metal. It was over. The war had been long, brutal, and costly, but humanity had won. Vengeance had been served, but the victory was not without its cost. Hundreds of human ships had been destroyed, and many more soldiers, pilots, and civilians had lost their lives. The human fleet, though victorious, was severely damaged. The scars of battle would remain, not just on the ships, but on the people who had fought so hard for this moment. As the remaining ships of the human fleet gathered together, Alex allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity was not a race to be ignored or underestimated. Vesta 7 had fallen, but humanity's spirit had not. They had come back stronger, and they had shown that they would never back down in the face of destruction. Mia approached Alex, her face somber. "What now, Captain?" Alex looked out at the debris-filled space, the remains of the alien fleet floating in the distance. "Now, we rebuild. We honor the dead and make sure this never happens again." The human fleet turned back toward Earth, the war now behind them, but the memory of Vesta 7 still fresh in their hearts. Humanity had lost so much, but they had also gained something powerful: victory, unity, and the knowledge that they could rise up when the time came. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's wrath, and now it would never forget.